everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Jonas. I'm your host, Jonas Manashowitz. Today, I'm very, very pleased to have the two guests that I have. They're sisters. We have Elisa Montanti and Rita Louise Kornfeld. They are both authors. They're both activists. They're both dynamic women. They're Staten Island people. So, girls, let's have a conversation. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right. There's so many places to start, but I want to basically start at the beginning. You're both published authors. Elisa, your book, I'll Stand By You, is semi-autobiographical, but it's really the story of your journey to the Global Medical Relief Fund, and we're going to talk a lot about that. Rita Lou, your book, The Glad Game, is a fictional account of Civil War era New York, late 1860s, but also is set in northern Lithuania, in a shtetl, which could be Anatevka from Fiddler on the Roof, and we're going to talk about, the genesis of that. So I want to do a little bit of the background from what I know of you. 71 Major Avenue, Staten Island, watching the Verrazano being built, and subsequently some of the neighborhoods being sort of destroyed in the, in the name of progress. All right, so again, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about, Rita, your memories of those days.
Yeah, I was born here in Staten Island, 71 Major Avenue, and I never left very far. I only live a couple of blocks away now.
Okay, I love it.
And, it was a typical, I guess, childhood. We rode our bikes and roller skated down the street with our roller skate key. And, in the summer, my mother would open the door and out you would go, and there were no such thing as play dates, and it was a whole different time. It was a whole different time.
When the street lights went on.
When the street lights went, and everybody congregated.
It's a good title for a song, right? When the street lights come on.
But the neighborhood kind of congregated at our place. The adults would kind of sit in the driveway at night. It was a different time. There was no television at night. And no air conditioning, so you sat outside. And the kids would sit on the front stoop, or we used our garage as like a clubhouse and a playhouse, so all the kids in the neighborhood would come to us, and we'd play rackets and dance in the back, and it was just the best.
Yeah.
And
Elisa, you have similar memories, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's I hate the bridge. There's no denying it, because it ruined our habitat. We played in the woods. We had forts, where we sat on the front stoop, and, lightning bugs filled the night, the darkness, and crickets.
Constellations.
And now we have these two towers, not concrete, steel towers, and glaring lights. So it was
invasive,
dramatic.
right?
It was invasive. I resent the bridge. And, you would say, oh, well, get over it. It's progress. No, I never did get over it. I never did.
Well, I can understand that. It drove a wedge into your idyllic childhood.
It did. And, I remember, well, we could vaguely hear it still, the foghorn, because we didn't have noise pollution. We didn't have light pollution, so we were blessed. My sister's right. We were blessed.
All right. And also, if I recall correctly, a brief stint in Catholic school, because your mother recognized that the treatment was not conducive to a good childhood, right? Which I always found your mom was really ahead of her time in that sense.
Really. She was. The nuns were not kind. They weren't kind. And
I've never heard good nun stories.
No, you know what? In retrospect, I mean, they could have been locked up the way they treated the children. Instead of, my sister had mentioned this, and you were right on target. The ruler that should have been used for the blackboard was used to hit the kids. and the knuckles.
Yeah.
And you know, I have a little dyslexia, so like I was a slow reader, and I used to come home at night and sit on my grandfather's lap and read and read. And my mother would say, Elisa, did sister call on you to read today? No, mommy. Next day, no, mommy. How come? Because I'm dumb. What do you mean you're dumb? Well, they separated 75 children in the class.
That's
Separated from
staggering.
the smart to the dumb. So then my mother heard that, and then my sister had her bout.
I used to stutter. In fact, I still stutter when I'm nervous.
Okay.
But I studied a lot at that time. And so I especially stuttered when I was in class. And I guess a lot of it was nerves. And so I remember the teacher calling me to read, and you'd have to stand up. And oh, God, I was like, I'd be in a sweat. And I would stand up, and I'd be shaking, and I would start to stutter. And the kids would start to laugh, and the teacher would start to laugh. And so
Yeah.
one day,
It's harrowing as a child.
It was awful. And one day I ran home, and I was just hysterical. And the next day, my mother took me out. And so when she took me out, she took my sister out. And so the next day, I was in PS 39. And my sister was in PS 39, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because the same thing, I was below everybody in my class. And you know, here my mother's paying for a private school, and here the kids in the neighborhood came from lesser than what we had, and they're all. And it was fun to go to school. I couldn't believe it.
Right.
I mean, every day I looked forward to going to school.
Yeah.
The teachers were great. And one particular teacher, Mrs. Love, her name was, aptly named.
How perfect is that?
And she would, you know, let's take it easy. And she'd keep me after class, and very nicely. And the kids didn't laugh, and the teacher was helpful. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. No.
Have you always written?
No.
Okay.
I was always a big reader. Although
Okay.
that, I shouldn't say always. Maybe when I was 13, I started reading.
Okay.
And the very first book that really got me into reading was the Norfolk and Hull trilogy of The Mutiny on the Bounty. And the first one I read was Men Against the Sea. And I was so taken with this book, I could feel the waves on the boat. And it was from that I started to read, and I've never stopped reading. But I didn't start writing until, you know, I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 57 years.
Psychiatric?
Well, not always psychiatric. The last 30 years, psychiatry.
Last 30 years, okay.
But anyway, I always liked history, and I always liked social issues and anthropology. And my husband kept telling me I should go back to school and get a degree and blah, blah. And I said, nah, I'm too old. Because at that point, I was already in my 40s. And so my husband registered me at CSI. And in one of the classes I took was an English class, which was mandatory. And we had to write. We had to write little stories about, and I found that I loved it. And so I've been writing ever since then. So that's the
I'll
genesis
say
of
you
it.
have two published
I have
novels.
2 published novels, and I'm working on a third. The third one is going kind of slowly, because so far it doesn't have a zing, but it'll get there.
Okay.
It'll get there.
Well, The Glad Game certainly pulled me right in. And now, Elisa, were you creative as a writer, or I know music was always also
always music. I like poetry. And my sister and I, it's amazing how we both like to write, but in different fashions.
Which is also, same home, same upbringing, same schools, but your writing is, two ends, which I love.
Yeah, poetry that then took off to lyrics, and I write songs now.
Yeah.
But I remember when I came back from Florida, my sister greeted me at the airport when my first poem was published in a book. So, and I received a poetry award. They flew me out to California, and I was really proud of that,
Yeah.
Wow. And then I
deservedly
just kept
so.
going, and I love to write. Yeah. But again, differently.
Now, so in getting to that, or from that, I should say, I'll stand by you to briefly tell our viewers and our listeners The letter from Kennan, explain what that was.
Yeah. So, my sister and I went through a really rough time. My mother was ill for almost 10 years. And and then what happened, so she passed, and I had developed anxiety down the road, and I think it was, just all that built up that we were going through. So, long story short, I moved to Florida. I came back, and there was probably a reason I came back. And I was asked to
I
write.
think there was
Yeah,
a
there
definite
was.
reason.
I was asked to write a song, lyrics for a local fundraiser here in Staten Island, to raise money for toys and school supplies for the children of Bosnia. And so I titled it "Let's Do a Miracle." And so I did, and that led me to meet the ambassador to Bosnia at the time of the UN, because he had read the Staten Island Advance, and he thanked everyone for gathering together and trying to bring awareness. So I had called the UN, and I said, is there any way I could meet with him? Maybe I could do more. So 2 months down the road, I had a meeting, and I went to the UN, and I'm there in his office, and he thanked me for my interest to wanting to help. And he said, quite frankly, we have much stronger needs, more than pencil cases and coloring books. And he reached into his drawer and he showed me this letter that this 11-year-old boy at the time had written, with his father had written, saying, I'm asking all God and merciful people to help me get 2 new arms and a leg. So the thought of pencil cases and coloring books flew out the window on First Avenue. Thought of that. And it was then that my life was about to change. And so I recruited airlines, hospital, prosthetic companies, and whatnot. And
so the birth of the Global Medical Relief Fund.
When it was, well, actually, I helped Kennan on a personal note.
Right. And Kennan,
he was the nucleus for the charity, in the sense that I wanted to do more, and that's when I went to Bosnia and I compiled lists of orphanages, hospitals.
Okay, so you went to Bosnia, you found Kennan. You knew where he, I mean, you know what I mean. You made contact with Kennan, right, and his family.
He lived with me for 4 months. Right. And that time is when I was healing him, but he was healing me.
It's symbiotic.
Together, just symbiotic. As I was him.
Yeah. And hard to say who rescued who, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's when I went to war-torn Bosnia after he left, and I said to my accountant that did my taxes, every year, how do you start a charity? And so I started it.
All right. So then that begins your documenting of your journey. And since then, so much more has happened.
Yeah, I'm trying to condense the story.
No, I understand. It's
27 years, 64 countries, over 1,000 kids.
Right. And that you continue. Some of them have had to go back, but they're able to come here to get refitted as they grow.
They all do.
They all do.
Yeah. So that's why there's so many follow-up visits, because we help them from birth to 21. So these children come, and they come because they outgrow their prosthetics.
Yeah.
Or they need more surgery, rehabilitation. There's been a handful, about 5, that have stayed here because of persecution between Iraq and Afghanistan.
Because it's so unsafe for them to return.
Yeah.
Rita, you were not raised with a Jewish or Yiddish background.
No.
But the setting of the, how the Glad Game begins, the names Yossel and Gittel and Moishe, and like I said, these could have been my distant relatives. So, and your husband is Jewish. So was he helpful in researching some of this, or?
Well, I've been in the family for a long time. But,
okay.
So of course I've picked up a little bit, but mostly it's through my reading. So I read a lot, and I pick things up, and I say, I wonder, about the Russian army, and I started to think, how did that affect people? How did that 4 times the amount of Jews were were
Yeah, the pogroms,
the
right? The
pogroms,
invasions,
and 4 times the amount of Jews were conscripted
conscripted.
into the army. And I said, gee, how would they? And so, what if, and what if, and what if? And at the same time, I was reading about the Civil War and about the New York draft
The
riots.
draft
And it
riots.
kind of hit me together, and I said, how am I going to put this together? And that's kind of how
Well,
it came to be.
you do it beautifully, but interesting. The Link is this not very likable
No,
character
he's
of
not likable
Joe.
at all.
Yeah,
I
he's
like
an
to write about
awful.
scoundrels.
Yeah, he's a real
Scoundrel.
scoundrel.
He's a
You
real
know,
scoundrel.
but yet serves as the link,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
really interesting. I enjoyed the book so much. So, Elisa, are you writing any more books as of I
No,
know
just writing
just
songs.
writing songs. Okay,
We have 5
okay.
with my band that we're, working in the studio right now with them, which I'm really excited about.
And the band Mercury Rising, right?
Mercury
Okay, I'm
Rising.
familiar with them. I'm familiar with them.
Yep.
All right, that's terrific. And I know Rita, you're working on another book, as you said, and I'm very grateful that you brought me Victoria. I look forward to reading that as
Oh, that's
well.
great.
Okay.
I have
Yeah.
no doubt. I have no doubt. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about women in literature, and I'm imagining. Oh, sorry. I'm imagining you have, people that you look up to, maybe, authors that you admire, maybe not particularly female, or are there, maybe, I don't, Toni Morrison or Louisa May Alcott. I mean, I was wondering
Mm.
if there are any, early influences that were
John
particularly female.
Steinbeck was my
Okay,
biggest.
you know that
Um,
you are not alone in
Not
that.
only the way he wrote, but his whole ideas. So I guess, yeah, he was the first.
Is
I don't know. I
Grapes of
read
Wrath?
The Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah,
The Grapes
yeah,
of Wrath, one of my favorites. Heartbreaking, but
but
certainly
so
one of my
real.
favorites. So real, yeah.
Yeah, Tom
So
Joad.
I can't really say because I kind of read a little bit of everything, and when I read, I change genres here and there, and if I read something serious, then I'll read something not so serious, and if I'll read a um, historical fiction, those are my favorite.
Okay.
But then I'll move to the only thing I don't read is romance. I don't read romance, but everything else I kind of read, and I read very slowly because a lot of the reading is how did they do that? How did they move this to this? How did he make this one come alive? How did he? So I read it not
Yeah,
only for the story, I read it for the words, I read it for how it's the craft, and
yeah.
yeah.
For me, Larry McMurtry, who
Oh
wrote
yeah.
Lonesome
Yeah,
Dove,
yeah,
and
yeah.
the ease with which he could move in and out
Yes.
of characters was
Yeah.
deft and
It's
just
yeah,
so
it's very
remarkable.
difficult.
Like it's very
It's very
difficult,
difficult.
but the ease that he
Yes.
could do it with, it was like a magician,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And
Exactly.
or like or a musician or a master
Right. Yeah,
musician,
yeah.
how they can create. And again, you wonder how did they get from
Yeah,
A
from
to
A to
B,
B.
right? Yeah,
How
yeah,
do you make time pass? How do you, so
right.
and it seems so easy, and it's really
But
not.
no, it is not.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of. You might not be familiar with his work. His name was Neil Peart. I'm sorry to say he's no longer with us. He was the drummer for a very very popular band called Rush, and he was a very wonderful, influential drummer. But he was also this incredible lyricist, and they called him the Professor. He read everything, and his writing was really, really remarkable. He wrote several novels as well.
Hmm.
His gift was instead of he would say, I awoke to the bird song. He would write without being pretentious, which he would write as gray traces of dawn tinged the eastern sky. The birds announced the dawn, and
Love it.
but it wasn't. He was this grand storyteller, almost like Dickens, but not not pretentious, right? Not look what I can do. How about you as far as novelists? Any writers
Well,
that
not so much novelists, but people that make change, like Rosa Parks. She stood up
okay?
for it, and that's what
She
I
certainly
really,
did.
really respect. And Margaret Mead quote, "Don't ever underestimate the change and the power that one person or a group of people could do." So that's I'm like kind of into that, like for change and for making a difference, and
For being unafraid.
to being unafraid, survival. And I think that's what kind of got me into doing what I do with the charity.
Well, I mean,
Um,
Rita and I joked. She said, if you took time to think about what you do, you probably wouldn't do it.
I was so worried about her.
I do too.
I said, how are you going to do this? And like I said, if you don't get this wrong, if you had half a brain, you wouldn't do it.
yeah, but you know what?
But again, I know. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You can't look at the big picture, because if you look at the big picture, you're going to say, "Oh, I can't do that."
It's too daunting.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. So, I always cross each bridge as I get to it, and that's how I feel that I have succeeded a lot in what I do with the charity.
And what about when you meet opposition?
It's not easy doing good, because people will maybe wonder why is she doing that? Why is that person,
Like you have an agenda?
Yeah, right, right. And I've been faced with monumental opposition from day one, especially after Iraq, when I went to help children. And the front page of the Advance, there was this article about the two little kids that I had brought. One
Mhm.
blind boy who lost his arm, his sight, and a little girl, Dalal,
Oh, she was
who
adorable.
lost her leg because accidentally they obliviated her whole town, and she lost her baby brother and whatnot. Anyway, so I'm there, and they had done an article, and somebody wrote in and said, "How can you print, the Iraqi children? How could she do that? Our soldiers should be on the front page, not these kids who are going to grow to hate us." And years later, I was asked to speak. I was keynote speaker for the Wounded Warrior Project.
Mm-hmm.
And I addressed the crowd, and I said how, you may wonder why I fit in here, the Wounded Warriors. And actually it's you, because I told them the story about the article, and I said, actually, it was our soldiers on that front page, because it was the soldiers that I would get hundreds.
Right. They were reaching
emails.
out to you.
Can you help this
Help
child?
these
Can you help
children.
that child? So I used to really feel bad when I got hate mail. You should rot. After I was on 60 Minutes, I mean, more of the support that I got, it was wonderful. That the outpouring of love and people. But then there were people that were like, I should rot and I should be deported. And I should go to other,
Yeah.
And now I feel sorry for those people.
I do too. You
Sorry
can only
for
pray
them.
for them.
You know,
you can only pray for them.
Shame on them.
Yeah.
They don't see beyond their own backyard, and
Their own fears.
Our very worst are these kids' best. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I mean
Mhm.
that they'll bandage a knee too tight because a child fell, and then he has to get amputated. The kids in Tanzania, because they have albinism,
Yeah.
they target them because they feel it's good luck to have a body part. So these poor kids have to stay in a safe house, because if they go back in their villages, which they have lost their limbs, they target them. They go out in the villages and they machete these kids' limbs off. There's so much, so much, so much. So yes, there's a need in this country, but the need in this country, thank God, is being helped. We have Medicaid. Well, that's debatable right now. But anyway, the Shriners Children's Hospital, 95% of the children that I helped get help, and the Shriners help the children here. So it's not coming out of taxpayers' money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
Right.
And
Right.
we're helping these kids. We're empowering these children. They go back, and they come back every year, and they also tell their people, their community, how good the American people are.
To me, aside from the medical uh, problems that are fixed, to me, the second most important thing, or maybe the first, is how you put these people together and they all love each other. And
Yeah.
it is such a wonderful thing to see.
That might be the richest gift of all.
It is.
You know,
That the
I-
It's more than
human,
prosperity.
I
right?
remember
Yeah.
at one point she had Iraqi children here and she had children from Haiti. And the children from Haiti were like, oh my God, how can I be with these people? They're bad. These people are bad from Iraq. And by time they left, they were all crying being to separate. And they all realized, that everything is the same. And I would see mothers crying over their children, and your heart would break. And you could feel it. You
Yeah.
could feel the pain that they have. They're
Yeah.
no different. They're no
We
different.
assume you could assume the pain of the species when
People are people, and I think people that don't have any contact with other people than their own in their own little world, don't see it.
that the isolationism, that could
that's-
breed contempt, I suppose.
We were very, very fortunate. Again, not only did we have a wonderful childhood, but we had parents that were open. My
Yeah,
father
mine
used
too.
to
Thank
go to
God.
sea, and so my father was all over the world, and my father was the most open-minded person, and he brought that back to us.
You did.
And I remember one time I was in school and I heard the word, I shouldn't say it.
The N-word?
No, about Puerto Ricans, and
Okay.
I repeated it at supper, and my father put down his fork, and he gave me a lecture that I'm never to speak like blah blah blah, and so we were fortunate that this is where it
Yeah.
initiated.
Yeah.
And my sister, when I say that she's colorblind, I mean it.
Yeah.
She is absolutely colorblind.
Yeah.
Yes.
So moving forward, Rita, what are we going to do as a human species? What's the next logical thing for us to make things better?
I'm writing, I'm keeping myself busy. I try to be a decent person. I try to look at all people equally. And I don't know, we all have to do something, but we have to be mindful. I
Mhm.
can't say any particular thing, but get out there and show who you are.
Right. Even I think I tell people, even if you a genuine compliment, if you, hey, you
it
look
goes
really
along,
lovely in that dress.
and it goes a long way.
That's all you have to do.
Absolutely.
Be nice to people.
That's all you have to do. Yeah.
Kind. Be kind. Have empathy.
Have empathy.
And that's what we're lacking. And people, calling out names, making fun of people, and
Well, how do we correct course? Elisa, I turn to you.
It's also there's so much happening in the world, but you'll lower the flag for one, but you won't for everybody else. You know what? What about this other person? Don't be, again, colorblind in another way. It's just not right. It's just not right what's happening.
I remember you told me you were confronted by someone about the children. Well, why aren't you helping our children here? And you said, because they don't step on landmines here.
Exactly. There's no landmines here.
There's no landmines here. The fact that they would even ask you something like that, but
Well,
all right.
Somebody came to my office. They said, I'd like to talk to you. I have $1,000 check, but you have to help kids here. I said, well, first of all, I do help kids here, but it's different how we help them because we don't have to bring them in and what. I said, but if that's a stipulation, I do not want your money.
Yeah, well, exactly.
You keep your $1,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, more of an understanding, love, empathy, and the world is not the world, but the country right now is lacking it. It truly is.
And it's very disheartening for people like us. I say us because we're like-minded people who try and help people and try and do good and try not to screw other people over. It's disheartening, but as I've said, and my dear producer Kimbra, she and I have talked about this. There's more good people than bad people. There are, because if there were more bad people, we'd really be in darkness. There are more good people than bad people. There have to be. Otherwise, it would really be an unnavigatable sea.
I want to believe that, but we're in such a hard. I do believe that deep down, and I want to. I do.
Absolutely not.
It's all about being kind, being equal, and doing the right thing. But, what we have out there, it's like a circus. It's god awful.
It is, love.
It's awful.
It is. It is. Again,
People making fun of people in the administration, calling out names, and my God, this is what we have.
Yeah, and you mentioned your parents, my parents, their generation would be appalled.
Yes.
Absolutely appalled. The leaders used to be, they were opponents, right? But they still collectively had the country's best interests. They were opponents. They weren't enemies trying to.
We all had the same news source. We all had Walter Cronkite.
Right.
And so everybody saw the same news. I think that's a big problem that we're dealing with now.
Yeah, because
now it's become a blood sport.
Yeah, and if you don't change the channel, I'll always say, change the channel.
Literally and figuratively.
Literally, read a newspaper. But if you're looking at one extreme channel and you're going to listen to that, well, then you're going to believe it. You're going to believe it. Do fact checking. Again, read the paper. Change the channel.
Or go travel and get your own answers. Get the truth.
Traveling is one of the best things to do.
That's where you get the truth. If you really want to know what's going on in the world, go out and see the world.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's you've traveled too, I'm sure, right, Rita?
Yeah.
What is it? Are you a sun and sand person?
No.
Neither am I. I'm concrete and steel. I like the woods. I'm not a sun and sand person either.
No.
Where have you traveled most recently that you like?
Well, I just came back from England. And,
okay.
I was very impressed with England. Actually, it was lovely. The people were nice.
I love it there.
Yeah. And I enjoyed that very much. The year before, we went to Australia because we have.
I've never been. Wow.
We have. My husband has some relatives there, and
really,
of course, that was lovely.
Jewish Australians.
Yeah. And but the best trip of my life was when I was young and stupid.
We weren't stupid.
And
I have to hear this.
It was a different time. And
are we talking 70s?
We're talking 70s.
Okay.
And so off I went in the car with a friend of mine who we really weren't such good friends, but I left my job and she said, I heard you want to travel. What do you say? I said, let's go. Where are we going? And I said, how about Alaska? That's because it was the furthest place I could think of. And so we drove cross country and we slept in the car and we slept in a tent. And when we drove as far as the roads went, we turned down and went down to Mexico. And so that's a memory I will never.
Have you written about it?
I haven't written about it, no.
Okay.
And they camped out, and they didn't know they were practically on the track until they heard the train coming.
Yeah, so it was fun.
On the way there.
But you know what? To be young and being able to get into a tent, that was fun. That was the best.
I tell people.
Do it while you can.
Absolutely. I tell young people all the time that the real American dream is getting in a car and going out and seeing America. Yeah. That's the real American dream. You don't need a visa. You don't need a passport. All you need is yourself.
Yeah.
And a reliable conveyance.
Yeah.
Even that you don't need. You could do it by train and hitchhiking or just. Yeah. I tell people, go see America. How wonderful it is. Elisa, I know you travel. You travel to some.
I haven't been to many exotic places. I've been to.
But you've been to war-torn.
War-torn. Haiti, right with the earthquake. Iraq, the the border of Syria.
Pakistan,
I
Afghanistan.
wasn't. No.
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 Okay.
No.
Okay.
Bosnia.
Bosnia.
Let me see. Turkey, Lebanon. Yeah, war-torn countries. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to Italy. I love Italy, and we have relatives in Italy. My grandfather was born there, and I'd love to live in Italy, especially now.
I bet. Yeah.
Especially
I
now.
bet.
My God.
You might have a Dare to Dream house.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know.
Who knows? Who
But you know,
knows?
one of the biggest thing to is get off your front stoop and just leave a neighborhood, and you see
Yeah.
how different life is.
Yeah.
The first job I had, remember, was brought up, and everybody was Italian on the block.
Sure.
And
Sure.
my first job was in Maimonides in Brooklyn, and
hospital.
and it was like culture shock, and not only
Right. There were Jamaicans, right? Latinas,
and a lot of Jews that
Right,
I
right.
didn't know, and I met a lot of people that were Holocaust survivors, and I mean, it was a whole. And then you get to work with all different people, and you realize, especially if you're working the night shift and it's you and another nurse and another person, and that nurse was usually from someplace, and you realize that you're the same. That
Yep.
you
Yeah.
all worry
That's-
about your children, you all worry about the bills you got to pay, you all have the same, and that's a real eye opener.
Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
had I had a wonderful experience along those lines. I also went back to school a little later on to Massar school.
Yeah.
I was 47 when I
Okay.
went back to school. So most of my classmates were younger. They had just gotten out of college, or they were going to Massar school, and it was in Manhattan, and there were 2 Israeli students talking Hebrew and 2 Japanese students talking Japanese, and Spanish kids talking Spanish, and English, all at the table. These were,
Isn't it
the people,
great?
and I remember.
Yeah.
This is a world village. I mean, I was
That's-
so,
that's what I
kind of
love about-
moved by
That's
it.
what I love about
And
New
people
York.
take
Yes,
that for granted.
yes,
People
yes,
they take that
yes,
for granted.
they
They don't
do.
People,
understand the beauty of that.
Yes.
people look at it as a negative.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the charity, like, I'll have like 4 different families there sitting around the table, not speaking the same language, but learning about each other's
Well-
culture, eating the food, who cooks this, what, because the guardians cook the food. And they become like a family.
Of course.
And it's wonderful.
Of course.
Because otherwise they would not have known. And the same thing with the Haitian kids when I brought them back from Haiti. I'm on the plane and I said, you're going to be joined with Iraqi children and a boy from the Congo. And they said, oh, Iraq is so bad, they're bad people. I said, no. There's good and bad all over. And then again, as my sister said, in the course of time while they were there, and then when it was time to leave, they cried. And that is so important to me.
I bet.
Because it's like a mini UN that I have.
Yeah.
And again,
Absolutely.
it's like traveling the world. Well, I can't travel the world and these people can't, but in my little world here, this is what's happening.
But yeah, the odds are against you in so many ways. Yet you create it anyway. You keep moving
It's a
forward
good
anyway.
feeling. It's a good feeling. I love it.
It's wonderful.
I love
It's
it.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And so, how often do you girls see each other now?
Pretty often.
Pretty often.
I couldn't
We've
imagine.
stayed very close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have friends, excuse me, I have friends that have families all over the country and they may not see each other like maybe once a year or talk
Yeah.
like every 6 months. I can't imagine not talking to my sister once a week at least.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're very different, but we're very the same.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
much.
Like me and my siblings. My,
Yeah.
my brother and I couldn't be more different, but we're very close.
Yeah.
He's 10
Well,
years older than me.
We have the same morals, same values,
Mhm.
same
Ideologies,
views,
yeah.
ideology. Yeah, we really do.
Yeah.
We really do.
Well,
And we
you know.
laugh a lot. And that's so important. No matter
It's
what,
key.
wherever we are, whatever we do, we'll always find something to laugh at.
And we get lost a lot.
We get lost, like today.
Even with
We
GPS,
get
right?
lost everywhere we go.
Everywhere we go. And what do? We pull over and laugh.
Yeah.
But
well, I love that.
We have the same sense of humor, too.
Mhm. I would imagine so.
Yeah,
Have
definitely.
you traveled together at all?
We went
Yeah.
to Italy together.
Yeah. We went to Santo Domingo. We took our father.
Oh, right. We took our father to Dominican Republic.
Really?
He
Yeah.
was 89 years old.
Wow.
He was
Amazing.
he was
Snorkeling.
Snorkeling.
Got on the boat with no
Jumped off the
problem.
boat and was snorkeling. Yeah.
He was a scuba diver, my father. And he at 89, 90, he didn't look a day over 70. God bless him.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. Elisa, what's on your mind? What do we want to have a conversation about?
It's just, it's very concerning now how the country is. And it's
Okay.
upsetting, and it's affecting my charity with visas and banning certain countries, and I'm afraid.
Has the U.S. aid, cancellation of U.S. aid affected what you do?
Not me, but the doctors that do mission trips.
Okay.
They have the chief of staff at China's hospital. He does mission trips to Ethiopia, and they were building some sort of like makeshift OR that he said there's thousands of children that need help, and the ones that they could do there, if not, we try to bring them here, but
So it's
stopped
this
the
administration
funding.
specifically.
Yeah, it is, and it's upsetting. It upsets me because I know how these children need help, and it hurts. When people say help your own, and then you hear them bashing and being so prejudiced and racism. It's a sickness. It's an
I know.
illness, and I hate it, and
I
that's
know.
really affecting me.
I understand wholeheartedly. Do you see any way out of it,
Yeah,
even on a simple level?
I pray a lot. I have faith. I have
I
strong
know, and
faith.
you cry a lot. We talked about that.
I cry a lot too.
I do too.
I cry a
do
lot.
too.
I'm very emotional. Maybe it's to have such empathy. It's both a blessing and a curse. Okay, and yes, I do pray a lot, and I have strong faith. I don't preach it. I live my faith. I live it. I don't have to preach it. And there's a saying from the Miracle on 34th Street. Faith is believing when common sense tells you not to.
Right, or faith, you can do very little with it, but absolutely nothing without it.
Yeah, so I have my faith. I do.
How about you, Rita? What would you like to see people doing more of?
Being kind to each other.
Patient, a little more patient, right?
I suppose. I don't know. I'm with my sister on this one. With what's happening in the country really has me very upset. So I try to do my part somehow or other. And I don't know. I work with a lot of indigent people, and the name of the Glad Game. That name came about because
I'm glad you mentioned. Yeah.
I would have groups with the patients, and you're talking about people that have nothing. I mean, they don't have a home. They don't have their mind. They don't have anything. And you go around the table and you say to people, say one thing that you're grateful for. And every one of them had an answer. Every one of them was grateful for something. And I think about how people are so ungrateful, or so
people who have so much
people
too.
who have so much. And I think to myself how blessed I am. I have my health, thank you. My family, thank you, God. My sons come over often. I'm still working, not a lot, but enough to keep my brain moving. And I have a house. I can feed myself. What more do I need in life?
Well,
and I think if people were more appreciative,
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
how we've gotten to this point.
It's a valid thing to think about. Yeah.
And people should think about it.
Yeah.
And be more grateful.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
And
because now is the best time to be alive in a lot of ways, as far as medical science and
absolutely.
Absolutely. Availability of food and clothing and all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely the best time to be alive in that sense. Also, the most trying.
Yes.
With technology and AI and the hypocrisy.
There's a lot of hypocrisy.
I know, love. I know.
It's like
it's a big wrench in the works.
Yeah, you preach. Yeah. I'm hoping that, somehow things change. Yeah.
How is Kenan and his family?
Kenan is wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kenan is wonderful. He's the vice president of his big financial institution. It's Credit Suisse merged with USB. I always get USB and UBS mixed up. What is it? UBS?
I think it's UBS.
UBS.
Yeah.
USB is what you put in the computer. And he has 2 kids. He's married. He's
Yeah.
wonderful. Kenan
Yeah.
is my
who
hero.
are essentially grandchildren to you.
Yeah. Oh, they are.
They are.
Oh no, they are.
Yeah.
They all absolutely
Yeah.
are. Kenan is if I gave birth to him.
Right.
He
And
truly
Right.
is.
and how about Ahmed, the blind boy who, I mean,
The musician?
Yeah.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
And now he's on the international soccer team for blind people,
Representing the U.S.
representing the U.S.
Yeah.
Would he ever
Yeah.
have that in Iraq?
No.
What would have happened to him if he never came here? and
He's
got-
working towards the World Cup. He plays. He writes his own music. He never saw a keyboard in his life.
No, I know.
And he has an ear. He helped me with keys, like when I had to transpose keys with singing.
Right.
He's amazing. I'm so
Yeah.
proud of him. I'm so proud of him.
They're all miraculous. Maritza is Maritza the artist?
Marcia.
Marcia.
Well, I'll talk if I could talk about that a little.
Please do.
Okay.
She's
So Marcia, I had gotten an email from the Ministry of Health in Kabul. Well, let me see, 10 years ago. So she was 6.
right.
Well, no, now because they're here 2 years. So yeah, she was 6, right? So it's 12 years ago, and she was with her father in the car, and the car was ambushed by the Taliban. Her father was working in the jails against the Taliban. So they said to get out of the car. Right away, he put Marcia, because she was right near him, under the seat. He sheltered her a little, and they shot the father dead, the young brother dead, and they shot Marcia, but Marcia survived. Bullet went in her mouth, out her eye. So I brought her here. She had surgery, got her a prosthetic eye. She was here for a while, went back. We lost contact. I said, "Dear God, I hope she's okay."
And this was at this point was when you did the documentary. You were still looking for her, if I remember. You're walking on the beach at the end.
Yes.
You were still looking for her.
Right. So so we brought her. I got an email from a relative that was living in Sweden saying that she needs to come. She's in Afghanistan.
Right.
She has,
And she made it from Pakistan to Afghanistan or something?
No. So wait.
Okay.
Now I write to the American Embassy.
Okay.
They moved. The sister was going to nursing school in Kabul, and all of this is happening at the same. Well, before our troops pulled out, I wrote to the American Embassy, and they're taking their sweet time with, looking at everything, and they're waiting so they can get an appointment, so that they could get a visa, so they could come here. In the interim, COVID happens. The American Embassy is on skeleton crew. Right after that, troops pulled out, Taliban pulls in, they're hiding in the basement.
Right.
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 And we
literally their lives would have been taken without question. Without question.
The explosions all over. They're hiding out.
Right.
The brother was incognito. I wired money so that they could eat. That they had nothing. The car. This story is a story that one day I think is going to be told. So we corresponded back and forth, messaging. And there was no way they could get out. There's no more American Embassy. So I thought, wait a minute, they could go to another embassy, and the neighboring country is Pakistan, so maybe they could get a Pakistan visa. So now I prayed again, which I often do.
You cried and prayed.
And I did. And it occurred to me I could contact one of the women that I help her child every year. A Rouge who was born without legs and an arm. And so I did, and I said, Belgis, do you think it's possible if they get a Pakistan visa, you can meet them at the border and help them? She said, absolutely, I'll do anything, Elisa. So I get back to them, and I said, is it possible you could get to the Pakistan? Anyway, the story how they did it, it's another whole.
I know.
They got the Pakistan visa. She met him at the border. Then they had the floods in Pakistan. They met them finally. She took them into the home for 2 months. Of course, I submitted everything right away to the American Embassy. She got the visas, and they're here. They're here 2 years, and it is so dangerous to go back. They're burning women, and this is what's so concerning, because the administration right now, under the other administration, Biden administration, he had granted temporary status to the interpreters and the people that helped. They helped us. Okay, and now they're dropping that whole thing, and these people, they said, could go back because it's safe. So the sister took guardianship, and they filed for asylum. Okay, I got the attorney, and we are praying. I don't know when they're going to hear, but I fear, and this is part of my whole concerning and why I'm so upset. I'm fearing that they're going to say they have to go back.
I
So
have no words for
the brother,
why would they have to go back?
because under the new administration, they're saying that it's safe, that all the interpreters, all the people could go back. Okay, now again, I'm in this.
Wasn't that from Luma? Didn't she say it was unsafe to have Afghanis here? I think it started with that.
Yeah. Well, the people that are speaking out of the administration, it's just like what's coming out of their mouths. I can't believe it. And this is what is the poison. To me, it's poison, because there's not truth, and there's no heart, and there's no empathy. So I fear for these two girls. I fear for them, because I don't know. And I asked the attorney. He said, I'm worried. And I want them to be careful where they go, because ICE is out there, and what's happening.
Would
and
they literally come and take them?
Well, yeah.
Mean,
I kind of know more than the common person, because I deal a lot with what's happening behind the scenes. And I know for a fact, okay, that they're burning women alive. Her brother, because her brother is on the run. Her brother is on the run because the Taliban tortured him. They tortured him. They tortured the brother and got away. And if they go back, they're dead.
Their face is sealed. Their face is sealed. Yeah.
So now, Fatima is, she'll never go to nursing school. They'll never do anything. If they go back, their lives are in serious danger. So this is why I am, and it's not that I'm political, and it's not that I'm Republican, Democrat, Independent.
No, you're a human being.
It's about being fair. It's about being kind. It's about having empathy. So this is so affecting me, and that's why I'm talking out about it.
Please,
Okay? And hypocrisy is a big part here. Because if you talk about God and you preach it, well, then live it. It's not what's happening.
No.
Okay?
No, not at all.
And I want to take the flag back. They say patriots. You have, all the patriots hanging their flag. You know what? That shouldn't be just the right. It should be everyone. We're all Americans. And my father was a patriot. I'm a patriot, damn it.
I am too.
Okay? And
I love this country.
I love this country. I love it.
Absolutely.
And what's happening is just horrible. So I am affected.
Rita, you, I know you're probably, or maybe not, I would imagine you have similar distaste with the current administration.
I absolutely
and
do.
Yeah,
I absolutely do.
When you were younger, you were the tail end of Eisenhower into Nixon, or
yeah. Eisenhower was in. Truman was in when I was born.
Okay.
So
there
I remember the Eisenhower administration. But of course, at that time, I was young and not.
Yeah. Well, I remember Nixon, but I was a kid. Yeah.
But I remember Nixon and the Vietnam War, which was horrible.
Watergate and
but again, I was against the Vietnam War, but I wasn't particularly political at that time. And but the more I read, the more political I get. and the more
It's understandable, you know.
and
It's hard not to be, really,
It is.
right?
It is. It is. I never have been in my life, and it's
and I
just
can't help seeing the similarities to the 1930s, and it scares me.
How can we move forward if we keep taking these giant falling backward this way?
and violence
And
is initiating more violence.
I know.
It is now.
Because
I mean,
this only gets you this.
yeah,
That's
That's
the
right.
you know, I
problem.
mean, what's
That's right.
happening, you know, and just ICE. I mean, you read about stuff that they're doing. My God, they're separating families.
Separating families,
Okay,
deporting
and
citizens,
they're
legal
going.
citizens.
They're going into where they have courts and they're taking them out. I mean, and
It's
the violence that's
totalitarian. I mean, you
happening.
know,
Yeah, absolutely.
My
yeah.
God,
It's
is this the way you
1984.
do
That's right.
things?
I
You have
know.
to create. You have to create your own happy. You have to create your home is your castle. You know, I live in a 1-bedroom townhouse. I don't have a lot, but you know what? I make it the way I like it. You know, and I have my dog, and I love my trees around me and whatnot.
Hmm.
And you have to be happy because there's too much sadness and
Yeah, it'll swallow you.
it'll swallow
It'll eat you
you.
alive.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. And Rita, your husband is still with you.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
which is wonderful.
Thank God. Yes.
Wonderful. And you, how long have you been married?
40,
Wow.
43 years.
A lifetime.
Yeah.
A lifetime.
A lifetime.
I know you credit him with being
Yes.
your center.
Mhm.
You dedicate the book to him, which I love, and you know, that's really beautiful. So, well, girls, I think we've definitely had
We
a
covered a lot.
conversation.
We have.
I am deeply, deeply grateful to you both for
We are deeply grateful for you because you're so compassionate and you
love.
care about people, and you have this podcast. Welcome, and I hope you really take off on it because it's important. It really is to have conversations.
I think so
you know?
too.
And
I'm
it lets
very
people,
grateful.
It gives them a platform. I mean, maybe I said a little more than I should, but
No,
I'm so
no.
passionate by what I do and how I feel, and you let us do it. Thank you for that.
And it
Thank
won't
you.
be the last time.
Thank
This
you.
is my second time interviewing you,
I know,
so
I know.
I think my actions speak.
Thank you, Jonas.
Rita, I am going to finish Victoria.
Okay.
and yes, I am going to give them both to my girlfriend. My girlfriend, Kimbra, is a published author. She wrote an amazing book about Lizzie Borden.
Oh, yeah,
About
you were telling me about that.
Yeah, inadmissible. We'll talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it
yeah.
anyway. So I'm surrounded by all these incredibly prolific women, and you know, I'm just very, very grateful. So again, folks, thanks for being part of my launching of the Conversations podcast with my wonderful guests, Elisa Montanti and Rita Louise Kornfeld. So thanks again. Be well. All the best.
From the winds of no mercy, through the sorrows of war, by the earth when she trembles, they can't take it anymore. They are wounded by nature, so let's do all we can. These are our children, and they all need a friend. Where will they go from here? How will they fly? How will they survive? Put them back to